there's a lot of research that's came across that we hold our emotions inside our body. And when those emotions start to create diseases, and there's so many resources, there's so much science that's backing this up now. It's a beautiful thing. And so when we don't release these emotions and we don't work through our traumas or our wounds, they're still inside of us and they're causing us unhealthy, they're causing anxiety, they're causing stress, they're causing all these things that store inside our body that cause diseases. So if we're looking at an overall health benefit, that's the number one reason why you should actually start to heal these emotions and start to heal this trauma and wounds that are happening and become in touch with your inner child or whatever needs that you need to start to healing that.
Mm.
If we're not stable emotionally and we try to bring ourselves physically, there has to be a balance. So we have to have a mind, body, spirit balance. If one of these things are out, then the rest of it's going to fall out.
What's up, you beautiful beasts? I'm Katie. I'm on a mission to help humans become their favorite versions of themselves and to strive for overall health by healing their relationship to food and exercise, healing their relationship to their body, and most importantly, healing their relationship to themselves, all without ever having to step on a scale. I have had the privilege to talk to all kinds of different humans who have been through a plethora of experiences just being a human and existing. I believe that every single time someone shares their story, at least one person listening will learn from it, be inspired by it, and maybe, just maybe, even change the entire direction of their life. These are the stories of humans unveiling their beautiful beast. Keep listening. This is the Unveiling the Beast podcast. So can you tell me and the listeners a little bit about who you are and why you think you are who you are?
Yeah. So professionally, I call myself an inner child coach and mentor. So I walk people through their inner child wounds to help figure out what's kind of keeping them from reaching where they want to be in their life, such as relationships, their businesses, their careers, basically self-worth, anything around that. So I'll walk them through. I do that through one-on-one coaching, through workshops, through other modalities. And then I tie that in with breathwork and meditation and energy healing to create kind of a complete total mind, body, spirit experience for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm very familiar with inner child work. I've been doing a lot of inner child work. I actually have in every room, I have a picture of me as a little girl to remind me to take care of her,
Yes.
And so, yeah. So what's your story? Like, how did you get into this?
Yeah, great question. So I'll take people back, typically back to my childhood, is when I was born into a very fear-based childhood that was very highly religious, fear-based religion. My dad was a preacher of this particular faith. And then I was just very timid and shy as a child and just didn't feel like I fit in with anything. So that put a lot of trauma inside of me, some emotional, spiritual, I call spiritual abuse that was inside of me. So as I get in through to my adult or I get into my teenage years, I'm kind of like at this crossroads of I don't really I can't make my parents like happy or whatever, no matter what I do, I feel like, and I can't exactly fit into the regular society. So I'm just going to go and do what I want to do. So I became very rebellious. I had so much anger inside of me. It was it's just so much anger, so much resentment, more towards the way I was raised, and my parents as well too, but just the feelings that I just felt certainty. So as I kind of get in through to my adulthood, I'm carrying all these wounds inside of me that I can't really figure out. I'm gonna keep repeating the same patterns. Had children very young, got married very young, got divorced at 29, which is young. And so as I was doing all this stuff, I was losing, like my dad was basically disowning me, to put it this way, throughout multiple times. So that adds more trauma into your life, kind of built down in. So as I'm going through here and I'm figuring out like, why am I starting these businesses? I can't exactly figure out what's going wrong with them. I'm in these relationships that are just like the same type of person over and over again. I'm doing the same things and I just feel so unworthy and just had so much guilt and shame inside of me for things that I didn't really feel guilty and shameful for, but it was taught to me that I was supposed to feel guilty and shameful for those. So as I was going kind of getting into my 30s, mid 30s, I had reached a certain point. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, God, I'm like, either I'm done with my life or you're going to have to like change. Something's got to change. So kind of almost immediately I started noticing a perception started to change on things, started seeing more gratitude in my life. So I really think God, the universe started opening up my mentality, opening up who I was. And so as I get through this healing journey, and then by this time I'm in real estate. So I'm doing real estate full time. And I want to be a business coach. But then I had this limiting belief going, you haven't had like $10 million businesses or anything like that, because you see all the ads, all the people like, you have to be so successful to be able to teach people. I was like, that's such a limiting belief. So I started working on that. And I started getting clients in, and clients were telling me that they didn't think they could do it either. So I'm like, we got to go back and do some mindset work. So as I'm
Mm,
going through, and I'm like, this is really what I want to do. I don't want to teach people how to do marketing plans. I don't teach people how to open up a businesses and stuff. I want to teach them the mindset work. So as we're doing that, I was like, I need to do some mindset work too. Hired my own coach. And so as I hired my coach, working with her, she introduced me to energy healing, introduced me to meditation, introduced me to just different ways, released so many things within 90 days within me that had been built up for, going on 30, 40 years that I didn't even know was inside of me. And so as I was doing this, I was like, this is amazing, but there's still something missing. And so again, it's funny how the universe works. It's like, okay, here's this term. Here's your inner child, get in touch with your inner child, and then doing some shadow work on side. So really dug deep in like a couple years, dug really deep into that and realized it was little Alicia that was inside of me that was hurting, and she still needed to be connected. I was ignoring her, and I needed to love on her and show her safe. And I need to reparent her. So through a process, and I did all this on my own with the help, I'd say on my own, with the help of divine guidance, my spirit
mm,
guides, my divine guidance completely working through me and telling me where to go, where to find things. As I was doing that, I started noticing, well, this is probably some of the things my clients are struggling with too. It was. So I started working with clients on that. And so as I was working on that, we started to release things and they started to open back up as I was opening back up. And it was just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. So that's really what I specialize in now, is helping people tap into that little child that's still inside of them, heal those wounds, and then nurture it and make it come out to be this creative, beautiful portion of yourself.
yeah, that's awesome. And that listeners, I hope you're paying attention because so many times, like, like for business example, we'll look for how to market your business in blah, 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 and that's not what we need.
Right.
And we don't know that that's not what we need. And so when you're buying like these one size fits all things, like in my industry, it's the one size fits all diets or magic pills or whatever.
Yep.
It's not just, oh, I'm a bad person or I'm a failure because I can't stick to this. It's no, it's what's going on inside of your head. Are you communicating with your little girl or your little boy or your little person that you were and trying to figure out what was holding them back
Yeah.
that you've carried with you? And so just the whole concept, um and it feels like so many people are just walking around unaware that this is why they're unable to do the thing, and it's not you. Does that make sense? I mean, it's so
Absolutely.
big.
It is so big and it's not taught to us. We're taught to follow these systems and follow this way. And if you don't fit into the systems, you don't fit into the box, there's something wrong with you.
Hmm.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with you ever. Nothing's
Yeah.
ever wrong with you. And so we're all creative individuals and most of us don't really fit comfortably into a certain box. And if
Hmm.
you do, I'm going to challenge you on that. First of all, people, your audience. But we're told how we're supposed to be. We're told, I mean, that from the time that we're brought into this world, or whoever our parent figures are, whoever our guardians are, whoever our teachers are, they already have consumed ideas of who you are and who they want you to be. And it's not
Hmm.
something that we can get upset about. I mean, we can't be pointing fingers and blaming because they're doing the best they can. And a lot of times it is out of love, but it's
Yeah.
not always what's best for you at the time. So we're not able, once you start to come and step out of that little box of what, society and everybody's put you inside of, it's scary. It's very, very scary, but you start to blossom and really start to be who you authentically are.
Yeah. I think one beautiful thing too, at least in my story, is when I started healing my relationship to myself and healing my relationship to food and exercise. That's what I do is I help
Yeah.
my relationships to those things so that they can actually do the things that are health rather than just like let's look at the number on the scale.
Mm.
So, and where I was going with this is that in my story, my mother tried to make me thin as possible, even as a child. But she was doing it out of love, thinking it was like, I'm doing this for her health. And
Hmm.
in the meantime, I don't know if I'm getting all this out correctly. She had her mother, who was my biggest bully, in her head. Your daughter's fat. She needs to lose weight. She needs to go to fat camp, blah, blah, blah. So during this time of my own healing, I'm communicating all this with my mom, and she's healing also. And so it's this beautiful, like, it's this beautiful thing. But yeah, just it's cool how it almost has a ripple effect when we start healing ourselves into either our family, friends, all of the above. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that with my mother too, as I and even my daughter too. My daughter's 23. Like as she's kind of healing some stuff, I'm healing, and then I'm telling my mom. And so we've had some amazing, awesome like conversations. I feel probably closer to my mother than ever have been through
Hmm.
going through all the things that I experienced as a child, that she was such a young mom too, that was still generational coming down, things coming down from generation to generation to generation. And it's amazing when we start to break those patterns and start to break all of that. And it doesn't, I mean, I feel like if you're 95 years old, you can still start breaking patterns. Even if you have children or
Oh
have
yeah.
other things, like you can still start breaking those patterns. And it creates such a beautiful thing. And I love that that's happening for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, so what is something, so you said you're a business coach? Like,
I was a business coach. Now I just do most inner child coaching. But I work with a lot of business owners.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So what that piece is definitely important for the business owners.
Oh yeah.
Yes. What's something that you typically see a lot of, like a pattern with people?
I see people who are trying to prove their worth through their business with particularly business owners is they're like, I'm working 80 hours a week and I can't tell clients no. They don't know how to say no to clients. They don't know how to hire right. They don't know how to do they're still trying to please their parents, make somebody else happy. They're trying to make themselves initially happy instead of realizing their worth is already inside themselves and it has absolutely nothing to
Mhm.
do with the label or their job or their career because all that can be taken away in a heartbeat. We see that happen
Yeah.
with COVID. I mean, all these wonderful businesses that have just, demolished over the past few years because of something tragic that happened. So
Yeah.
I see a lot of that self-worth, people tying their worth and trying to please everyone else is very tied into inner child.
Mm,
Another thing I see is people that are taking their for relationships, they're dating the same people. They're having the same arguments with their partners. They're, things that just could continuous cycles that keep happening. And they
yeah.
know that they are doing this, but they can't really figure out why. They can't figure out why. And it's this little inner child inside of them that's screaming out for attention and wants to be healed. And so once you start to heal that inner child, you start to see things differently because you don't see things as you're not a victim. And a lot of times, relationships, arguments, because we're a victim.
Yeah.
We're a victim against somebody else. And so when we start to heal that, we're not that victim anymore. So we start to treat other people. And we start to be able to look at other people through different lenses, be able to see that, what, their inner child's probably hurting now. Not that I say don't call that out, especially in the middle of an argument. That's a bad idea. But just knowing that, they have some, that maybe their inner child is hurting. Maybe they were bullied as a child, or maybe, something. I see people who are that what let's say I call 9 to 5 to typical your 9 career jobs is they can't get along with their superiors, or they're completely opposite. They're they're friends with they don't have any boundaries with their
Mm,
employees. Or maybe they feel they have to be this type A, just, macho, like stern person, and they have to really have control over everything. Control is another inner child issue. When we have to control everything, it's hugely tied into inner child. So that's probably the most typical things that I see with people.
mm. Yeah, going back to the piece of people are still trying to prove themselves.
Yeah.
Uh, two things came up for me is like we in my coaching community we talk about the difference between employee mindset and
Yeah.
entrepreneur mindset. Where employee mindset, tell me what to do, I'll collect the
Mm,
paycheck, I'm getting paid for this hour no matter what I'm doing, versus, oh, and you have to do a good job to please, the higher ups or whatever.
right.
Entrepreneur mindset is there are no rules. There's no one to please except for yourself. And that can be hard for people because they're not used to that intrinsic motivation to do well for themselves, right?
Yeah.
And then when you're adding the coaching piece, like I own my own coaching business, you're wanting to do well not just for yourself but also for your clients so that you can help them.
Yeah.
Um, and so we have a tendency to, and this is the second thing that came up, we have a tendency to not be able to separate the person from the performance. And so, like, if we do a bad job here, that means I'm a bad person. And that kind of goes
Yeah.
back into like the yo-yo dieters. If I fail this diet, it's my fault, I'm bad, rather than the diet was a shitty diet from the first in the first
Right.
place. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, that happens a lot. And I mean, if we don't have, like, as entrepreneurs, we're our own accountability. I mean, our
mhm,
bills have to get paid to pretty much our accountability. We have to bring
yeah.
in money. And so we can get to a certain point to where we're still trying to prove ourselves, but we're trying to prove to the world that we're somebody, we're something. We don't have anything to prove at all. You should have nothing to prove within yourself. You should find your core, whatever you're doing is completely out of love, something that you actually love to do, and you're
Mhm,
bringing love and support to other people. But we're not proving things to people anymore. Because if
yeah.
we prove it, you're never really proving anything to anyone any purposely. If you are, that person's never going to be satisfied or happy.
Yeah.
So we can't, you're going to be more. You're going to hit that goal and you're not going to be happy and celebrate it. You're going to be like, what's the next thing? What's the
Yeah.
next thing? What's the next thing? And I always challenge people who are, or, in a higher level position or an entrepreneur. If you have employees, celebrate the heck out of the little things they do, because that's going to
Yeah.
keep them motivated. They're looking at you and looking at, well, I have to like make up for next month, or I have to do better next time, or I have to always do better, or do better, be better. There's difference in doing better to improve our skills and to make something function more. But there's another difference in we're trying to do better to prove ourselves.
Yeah. That I think can even extend to prove ourselves to ourselves.
Yes.
You know, I've found that like being an entrepreneur is just like a giant experiment. And so people are so afraid to just take a step forward because they're afraid it's going to be the wrong choice. And the only way we're going to know if it's the wrong choice is if we take that step forward. And then, in our case, if it was the wrong choice, it wasn't wrong. It's just a pivot.
Yeah.
And so when people can start looking at it that way, rather than I'm so afraid of, letting other people down or whatever, like it's just a
Yeah.
huge experiment. We don't know what's going to work for us until we try something new. So, yeah.
Yeah. Every time we do something, we're still learning a lesson.
Hmm.
So we didn't fail. I'm a huge believer in we don't fail. There's nothing as failure. We're learning a lesson. And
Yeah.
because it's not the outcome that we wanted, doesn't mean it's not the outcome that needed to happen. And so we have to surrender the outcome out. Just knowing I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a leap of faith. And whatever happens is what is meant to happen for me.
Hmm.
I'm going to listen. I'm going to, let stuff flow into me. and I'm going to do the work that I need to do to make that flow into me. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to release the ending of it and just let know what happens is going to be a beautiful thing because I'm going to learn some type of lesson from it. I'm going to celebrate it no matter what.
Yeah. My coach always says, I hope you go out and fail your ass off.
Yes.
Thanks. So I wanted to kind of pivot the conversation, pivot.
Yes.
I wanted to kind of pivot the conversation a little bit in how, because this is a podcast-ish of stories and you told your story and it's also like health, but not, how much do I weigh, what am I eating and how am
Yeah.
I living, like all aspects of our health. And so how would you say, um, I'm going to say not healing your inner child or not doing that work can affect a person's physical health and mental health?
Yeah. So we're going to go into the physical health portion. There's a lot of research that's came across that we hold our emotions inside our body. And when those emotions start to create diseases, and there's so many resources, there's so much science that's backing this up now. It's a beautiful thing. And so when we don't release these emotions and we don't work through our traumas or our wounds, they're still inside of us and they're causing us unhealthy. They're causing anxiety, they're causing stress, they're causing all these things that store inside our body that cause diseases. So if we're looking at an overall health benefit, that's the number one reason why you should actually start to heal these emotions and start to heal this trauma and wounds that are happen and become in touch with your inner child or whatever needs that you need to start to healing that.
Mm.
If we're not stable emotionally and we try to bring ourselves physically, there has to be a balance. So we have to have a mind, body, spirit balance. If one of these things are out, and it took me years to figure this out, like if one of these things are out, then the rest of it's going to fall out because we have to have a solid core of mindset in order to reach our physical goals. And I'm not talking the way we look or the diets or scale. I'm talking physically healthy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
44 and I'm actually lifting heavier weights than I ever have.
Hell yeah. Sorry.
Yes, I'm so proud. Like, but I don't have the muscle. I don't have the muscle definition that I had in my 20s and 30s. And I'm okay with that because I'm stronger. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I'm doing this is to build strength. So when I'm 80, I can still be walking and still be doing 90, doing all the things that I want to do. And so
Yeah.
we have to look at health that way and have to have that healthy mindset around it. If we're if we're on the scale every day and we're trying to, of course, we want to look good. We want to fit into that dress and, we want to feel good about our exterior. But we can't tie our entire health around that because some of the most unhealthy people I know are skinny. They're,
Mm-hmm.
but they're frail. They're just not healthy people.
Yeah.
And so we have to switch that health around to what is going to make me stronger when I'm 80 or 90? What is going to keep me to that point? We have to switch that mindset around it. And when we start doing those things and we start working on our internal or inner mental health or inner compass, then those two are going to tie. And then we connect that with the spiritual guidance, which is basically just inside of you, the truth inside of you. Love. I'm going to connect it to love. Then
Mm-hmm.
it's all going to flow together. And it's not going to matter so much what that scale says because you're going to know internally that I'm still worthy, even if I've gained 10 pounds or even if I lose 5 pounds, doesn't make me any more worthy. My worth is not dictated through that. It's
Yeah.
dictated through the fact that I'm just love and light and nothing takes that away inside of ourselves. We can take it away, but nobody can take that from us.
Right. Yeah. I love that you mentioned I'm doing this so that, like in my
Yeah.
old age, I can still move around. Um, and not that we don't, like you said, not that we don't want to look good, but I always find that like if you just pay attention to the number on the scale, you're
Mhm.
missing everything else that's going on around
Yeah.
you. Like if you're working out only to see that number go down, you're not paying attention to how much stronger you're getting, for example.
Yeah.
And so um my whole thing is pay attention to the habits, pay
Hmm.
attention to your behaviors, and then the aesthetics will be a side effect. If you're healthy and you feel good, you're gonna look good too. Like,
Yeah. You're going to
oh, yeah,
shine from the outside. You're going to have this glow
exactly.
about you. And that is so much more attractive than being this, I mean, Hollywood definition of thin, or Hollywood definition of what you're supposed to look like, the little Barbie doll.
Yeah.
That's, you're going to have such a bigger glow about you. Not that if you don't look like a Barbie doll, you can't have that, but I've
Right.
seen people that have that. I mean, just have, they're just, it's like they live, they're so worried about what they're going to eat the next day. They're so worried about missing the workout, not because of they're failing themselves, but they're because they're going to get fat.
Right.
And so that's such a big thing to hold onto your shoulders. I mean, that's such a big thing to have to work around in your entire life. When you, like you said, if you make the habits out of it and you make the reasons why you're doing it,
Yeah.
for the reason for yourself, for your health, it's going to fall into place.
Yeah. I've said this a few times on the podcast, so listeners, if you're regulars, you're going to hear me say it again, but I often say the stress over whether or not to eat the damn cookie can be more unhealthy for you than if you just eat the damn cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. And if we take care of our emotional health, we're going to eat one cookie.
yeah.
We're not going to eat the whole box.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the one of the biggest portions of taking care of your mental health, is so you can have those boundaries within yourself of like, I'm going to have this one cookie. I might have two or three, but I'm not going to eat the whole entire box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you've allowed the 2 or 3.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, well, most of the time, even mental restriction of the thing will lead you to want to eat the thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, yeah, so I lost my thought. I had a thought and then it went away. I had a baby once, so this happens often.
I feel that. You get my age, just like the perimenopause comes in. You're like, what?
Yeah. Um, so you started with the physical piece of not healing your inner child. What about the mental and emotional piece?
Yeah. So imagine, I'm going to put this like, imagine that the way that I want everybody to look at their life now, and
Mm,
imagine all the problems that they're facing right now, they don't exist. And I'm not saying they're not going to exist, but they don't worry you. You don't sit up at night worrying about your problems. You don't worry about the finance, even you can be in the same situation. Imagine the peace that comes over you whenever you don't have this just anxiety, like looking at the future, at the past. You can just stay present. That was our whole point. Like, we go through life not being mindful and we're not staying present. We're so
yeah.
worried about what's going to happen in the future because we let our past dictate that. Instead of just sitting there and just being present. And so if we don't heal the inner child, we don't heal and get our mindset into a better place, we're never going to be able to move forward with our possibilities, with the things that could be possible in our lives.
Yeah.
No matter what people are facing right now, there's so much possibilities out there. And they can face these. You can either face a problem going head strong into it and knowing that no matter, I'm going to come out on the end of this, I'm going to learn a lesson and I'm ready for this. Or you can face it with fear. So imagine, would you rather feel fearful, which a lot of people do because that's so comfortable for them and they
Mm-hmm.
don't realize it? Or would you rather face something strong and confident? I mean, you can be Superwoman. You don't have to, we can be that. And so just
Yeah.
knowing that, not doing that, you're never going to achieve this stuff because it's what's holding you back. It's like a bag of rocks just sitting, you're trying to swim and you have a bag of rocks on you. Just keep sinking you down, sinking you down, sinking you down. You're never going to float up with these bag of rocks. You have to start to release those and let those go. And what
Mm,
happens when you let those go? You start to float and you start to be relaxed and calm. You can see the sun. You're not
yeah.
drowning.
Yeah. People spend, and I'm raising my hand on this one too. We spend a lot of time catastrophizing the future.
Yeah. It's human nature. I mean,
Yeah.
that's who we are. We don't have to be that way, but it's who we are, and that's what we're being taught and told. We've been conditioned to fear the future, to be fearful, especially nowadays. I mean, there's so much fear, collectively in the conscious. There's so much fear around us that we can actually choose to ignore that
Mm-hmm.
and choose to sit on the solid stance and just watch the fear go around and know that we don't have to participate in that. And people think
Mm,
they have to participate in it. They don't. You can step off of that anytime. You just have to make that conscious decision to.
yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Well, I do have one more question for you,
Okay.
and that is if you had one piece of advice that you could give to the world, what would it be?
I stop tying your internal worth on exterior things. Your
Mm,
job, your money, your car, your everything, your relationships. Stop tying, like, learn to be happy and content with yourself, with who you are without those things. Again, they could be taken away. We've seen it in our lifetimes. Stuff can be taken away. What are you left with? Nothing. But you all can always have that self-worth inside of you. And once you have that solid self-worth inside of you, no matter what happens and whatever hit, it's just going to hit you. It's going to bounce off. Because you know you're still strong and you still know that you're worthy. And you are worthy because you were brought into the world, just as you are, not because of something you've done. You don't earn worth. You're already worthy of it because you're love. And so just get back to that core thing.
I love it. Beautiful beasts, Alicia Fariselli signing off. Until next time. Balaka.